Thanks again so much for coming out tonight, supporting a good cause and this fun lineup. Are you guys ready for your headliner?
Yes!
Right. Please, everybody, give it up for Pete Stegemeyer.
All right. Oh my goodness. Thank you, everybody. This has been very exciting. Give it up for everybody that's been watching it. That is so fun. Oh my God. New York Marathon was this weekend. Very exciting. I did not compete. Our roads are bad enough as is. I completed a marathon of my own, though. I watched Squid Game all the way through. Yes! You guys like Squid Game? Yeah. Excellent. Most popular show in the world. I like it. Little unrealistic for me, if I'm being honest. I don't buy, like, somebody volunteering to, like, get shipped off somewhere where, like, they all dress the same. And all of a sudden they're, like, you know, in a life or death contest to clear out their debts for millions of dollars. Because in my experience, I did that for community college. I may have been host. I should have just done the Squid Game. It would have been way better for me. Oh, that's fun. That's fun. Yeah, I was in the Army, if you didn't get that. I think you guys did. You see the show. You know the theme of this show. Yeah, I was in the Army. I was not this fat when I was in the Army. This is a recent development. Like, when I was in, I had a six-pack. Like, I was ripped. You're laughing. You were there. You saw it. That is true. And then I got out. I'm like, the upkeep is not worth it. And I never worked out again. I went from G.I. Joe to Gigantic, you know? I went from looking like the guy in Call of Duty to the guy at GameStop that sells you Call of Duty. And as a veteran, I don't like Call of Duty. Like, I think it's way too, it's just, for me, it's too realistic, you know? Like, not the combat part, like, that's fun, like, that's fine. But, like, just the fact that they keep making new ones, and, like, me and my friends, like, never really finished the first one. You know? Yeah, I did get fat after the Army. I'm trying to lose weight now. Mostly because my doctor is telling me, you know, Pete, diabetes runs rampant in your family. You don't lose 50 pounds fast. Like, you might lose a leg. And I don't want to do that, although that is the fastest way to lose that 50 pounds. You know, like, that's immediate. I could do that. And I don't want to, like, but it's not like a fear thing. It's like I don't want to have to tell people that I lost my leg after the Army, you know? I'd just be real vague with it, be like, the colonel got me, and then let them figure out which one. You know, like, this one's from Kentucky. I faced off against General So, Captain Crunch, all of the military foods. I have another, like, this is maybe the dumbest reason to want to lose weight, and I feel you judging me, that's fine. I want to lose weight, like, because I want to be able to time travel. And yeah, stay with me. I can't do that in this body because I will be the fattest person anybody, like, after 1900 has ever seen in their lives. You know, like, in the 30s, like, they used to have, like, sideshows where, like, you could be like, see the grotesque man for a nickel. And the dude, like, I looked him up on Wikipedia, 225. The most grotesque man in the world is my goal weight. So I gotta get with it. I told you, it's the worst reason to want to lose weight. Oh my goodness. I was not good at the Army. That is true. I am not an aggressive man. I know that because saying the phrase aggressive man feels like stolen valor. Like, I'm not aggressive. Like, we'd be raiding compounds, and it'd be like 2 in the morning, and be like, Stegemeyer, kick down the door. And I'd be like, let me jiggle the handle, maybe it's stuck. There's a lot of intimidating shit to hear in like the pitch black, but like, oh, sorry is not one of them. That is true. I feel like I have to tell you guys, I am so much more badass on paper. Like this is 100% true. I have the stats of a badass. But then that's encompassed in this. And the best way that I can describe that is imagine for the next Fast and Furious movie. They're talking about like their worst bad guy ever. And he's got like a cool name like Xander Cage or something cool with like X's. Like doesn't belong there. But he doesn't give a fuck about the rules of the English language. He doesn't care about any rules. He's a badass. And they're like, man, this guy's got 2 combat tours in Afghanistan. He went to like the Army Nuclear Biological Chemical Weapons School. He's a master computer hacker. You know, like he fired a bazooka. That was really fun. And like they just keep describing this dude as like a penultimate badass, trained hand-to-hand combat with like UFC guys. And then like they make the big reveal and it's James Corden. You know? And like, you know, like when Chris Pratt got like ripped for Guardians of the Galaxy, everyone's like, he's funny, but now he's hot. Like, imagine James Corden from Cats. You know? And then every car chase in the Fast and Furious sequel, he's doing carpool karaoke. And he's got like Jewel, like as his guest during the high speed. He's like, I forgot the lyrics to the Jewel song, so we're gonna skip the musical portion of this. That's fine. You're welcome. Oh my goodness. I started stand-up comedy in the Army. And like in the Army. I was in Afghanistan. Like on my first deployment, like we were like, before, like you don't fly straight to Afghanistan. Like first you like hang out in Kyrgyzstan, which is beautiful. Like it kind of is though. It's like very pretty mountains, like lacking in infrastructure, but beautiful nature. And you hang out there for like 4 or 5 days. And then we were getting ready to go on the plane to Kandahar, and all of a sudden Dave Attell and Artie Lang get on our plane. And I'm like, war is so fucking weird. Like that was my first thought. Like, and also, if this plane goes down, like we are not making the news. Dave Attell and Artie Lang are making the news. Maybe that's like part of my head is like maybe that like they're the insurance, so like we can't like take the PR from like Dave Attell getting shot down. So like these guys will land. But it's true, like, and then they crushed, they did like some USO shows, they were super cool, and I'm like, I'm gonna do that, and so I started telling jokes and stories around the garbage fire. And that is, and is not a metaphor. That is real burning trash can. And a lot of times it would go really well, you know, like people would be like, man, this is super fun, like, let's do this again. But then, like, sometimes it did not go well, and they're like, we're gonna go on patrol early. That hurts. A little bit. It's not great to hear that, you know, you're less enticing than the worst human experience. Like, that's, like, when they're like, we're gonna take our chances with the Taliban's bombs. That's a wake-up call, and there's no snooze button on that one. I ended up, like, when I was in Afghanistan, I bought a book on how to become better at stand-up comedy, and one of the things it suggested was crowd work. That's real hard to do when you're in Afghanistan, because y'all live together, and you all have the same job. And I'd be like, how long have you two been together? And they're like, you can't ask Ben, we can't tell you. Oh, you guys are the best. But then one day, we detained some Taliban guys. And it was going to be a couple days until they could get picked up for processing. And they're like, we need somebody to guard these guys. And I shot my hand up like a good little volunteer. And I would hang out there with like my interpreter. And I'd just be like, hey, like, what's your name? Like, what do you do? Like, who's your dad? And I got exactly one laugh during this. But it is my favorite laugh in comedy. Yeah, because I feel like I really had to connect all the dots for that one to work. And like, yeah, I had a literal captive audience, but you know, I still had to make it work. It's not like we were at a comedy club. It's not like I was using the 2-drink minimum to waterboard them. But then, like a couple days like after they got picked up, I get a very angry phone call from one of the generals in Kandahar, and he's like, "Who the fuck talked to these guys?" And I'm like, that was me, sir. He's like, "You can't do that." I'm like, I was just trying some jokes. One hit really well. And he was like, "Yeah, I don't care. That is according to the statutes, that is unconventional interrogation. That is technically a war crime, Peter." And have you ever pursued the arts so badly that the Geneva Conventions gets brought up legitimately? The Geneva Conventions, by the way, only exist because some guy pursued the arts badly. You know, let him into art school. That's all I'm saying. I think that's why art got weird in the 50s, you know? Like, they just started being like, look at this guy. Like, he was supposed to do landscape. It's just like 3 boxes. Did a child do this? I'm like, I don't care. Let him in. Like, this guy, like, just splattered. This is the worst self-portrait I've ever seen. I'm like, look, dude, if he can do that to a canvas, God knows what he'll do to Poland. Oh, man. That was not even the worst trouble I got in the Army. The worst thing I did in the Army, let me rephrase that. The most trouble I got in the Army was for a practical joke that I like to call the Louisiana refund. So this is still my first deployment. We had this guy, total sweetheart of a person, not the smartest person I've ever met in my life. And we passed the time by playing practical jokes on him. And I started easy. I told him that if he pointed his rifle at the moon, he could see the flag from when the astronauts landed there. And he was skeptical. He was right to be skeptical. Until I told him that it would look upside down because we landed on the bottom because it's closer. And then at night, you would see him like in the guard tower pointing his rifle at the moon. And he was so excited one day when he finally thought he saw it that I didn't have the heart to tell him. So if you're watching this, it was not the moon. You didn't see it. But that like made me think that I could like play a better practical joke on him. And so after a while on the space, like we had the Canadian news crew like living on our base. They were the only people that like did not fly on that plane with us. Like we had about 100 people there and 5 Canadians that made like little news stories. And my buddy was from Louisiana, and I convinced the Canadians to make up a news release and like a little like CNN like da-da-da-da-da, that the Louisiana Purchase had gone bad. And so they were total saints. They did it in English, and then they did it in French and said that at the end of the month, the Louisiana Territory was going back to France. And I dubbed it onto a DVD in the middle of the Super Bowl. So we're all in the chow hall, and somebody's about to make like a dramatic catch, and then all of a sudden, breaking news, half of America going to France. And my friend ran out of the chow hall, started calling his wife. It's like, Michelle, pack the truck and drive north. And then I had to, like, he tried to get her to go to Texas, and I'm like, that was part of the purchase. He's like, drive north. And then I got called into my company commander's office, wondering why his wife was having to tell Army wives that they were no longer going to be American citizens. And then I had to go in front of a formation, tell him that it had all been an elaborate ruse. And honestly, he should have recognized the people on the TV as the people that lived on our base. Why would they give the exclusive to them? But I had to come clean and be like, Louisiana's going to be there when you get back, bud. And then he said to me, God damn it, Stegemeyer, I hate you. I H-A-T hate you. We're out of Afghanistan now, which is exciting, but people ask me, they're like, hey man, you're in the Army. What do you think is going to happen now? And to that, I say, you grossly overestimate how informed the troops are. I'm not saying they're dumb, except for that one guy. We've established that. But I'm not saying that the troops are dumb. I'm just saying they don't tell us anything. And case in point, I found out that we got bin Laden from CNN. I was 20 miles from the Pakistani border when it happened. I walked into the office, turned on the TV, and started making coffee. I'm like, holy shit, we're done. I was about to make my own mission accomplished banner. I thought we were going home early. That was 10 years ago. I was a decade wrong. They didn't even hold the formation. Everybody just found out from TV, which felt weird. But it's not that weird. Oh my God. I should clarify though, I did not get bin Laden. That was the SEALs. I would have opened with that, by the way. If I got bin Laden, I'd be like, guess what, motherfuckers? And I would have been the whole thing. I got somebody else, and not trying to brag, a little bit more dangerous. I got a little guy named Pete-T.S.D. No, it's fine. You can laugh. It's fine. Don't do it suddenly, because you can laugh at that. That's fine. I personally think it's the best possible time to have PTSD, because they call it PTSD. There's a name and it tells you what it is. And what happened? It's post-traumatic stress disorder. That makes sense. I'm glad I didn't have it in the 40s when they're like, oh, he's got the war sads. What's wrong with Grandpa? Just leave him alone. He's got the screamy sleepies. It's a good time to have it. Is all I'm saying. You get a dog, and that's nice. I do have a PTSD dog. She is my rock. She's the best. She's not specially trained. She's a puppy mill rescue, so she just also has PTSD. But we get each other. It's fine. She's also she's on Xanax, and I'm on Xanax, but hers is way cheaper than mine because it's for pets. So now I'm trying to convince my vet that I have a 300-pound Rottweiler that also gets sad. I try to game the scales. She's 90 pounds. They're this is a pug, sir. That is unbelievable. They're 20 pounds fat, not 90 pounds fat. I tried the same trick I do at the airport when I overpack and I don't want to pay for the extra luggage. Oh, man. I do have PTSD, though, and one of the things it does, it affects my short-term memory, so I have extreme short-term memory loss because of being in Afghanistan after 9/11. So now I hear never forget, and I'm like, that must be nice, Yeah, PTSD is weird because people think that it's just you waking up screaming, and that's not always kiss. There's a lot of signs and symptoms that you probably don't recognize as traditional PTSD. For me, it's my memory loss and also depression, and that happens. This is going great right now. Just crushing it, Pete. And it's true though. And then I also you have coping skills. One of the ways that I would cope with my PTSD before I realized I had it was I just made like bad jokes at the worst possible time. Like we'd have like somebody like hit an IED and like the truck was like totaled, but everybody was fine. I'm like, shit, like we just watched that like 3 days ago, dude. But that's like really common in the military. Like there's a lot of people that like have like a real gallows sense of humor because it's like how you cope with like stress and stuff like that. Like that's why that happens. I think. I mean, maybe I'm just weird. I don't know. But I also like, in addition to like the PTSD, I also have like really bad hearing loss and like tinnitus, which means I don't hear anything, and what I do hear, I don't remember. So I'm a joy to be married to. That was a lot of fun. Like, yeah, that's what you want. Is just like a brick wall. Like, better tennis partner than like marital partner, because I'm just like, I don't remember you saying that. But one time I was like walking down the street with my wife, and she was like saying something about how I don't pay, like she feels like sometimes I don't give the attention to things that I need to give. But at the exact same time she was saying that, there was this huge owl like just flying silently behind her. And it had a squirrel, or at least like a very well-fed rat. And other people like see it. And everyone's like, oh my God, like this owl is like crazy. But I don't want to tell her. Like, 'cause, like, the whole thing is like, you don't pay attention. And I don't want to be like, yeah, but there's an owl like right behind you. Like, you need to see this, it's crazy. Because they're silent predators. And so I never said anything about it until right now. So, hon, I was paying attention. Honestly, better attention than you were paying, because it was a cool owl. You know, like it was super, just the best. Like National Geographic right here on the Upper West Side. But it feels good to get that off my chest. Oh my God. Oh, I joke about that. I am married. I love my wife very much. She is a therapist, which is incredible. It also means that I have not won a fight ever. But, you know, I was in the U.S. Army, so baby, I'm used to that. But yeah, my wife is she's a therapist, and she does a lot of like couples counseling and stuff like that. And in my spare time, I have a podcast about bank robberies. You know, so like yin and yang. But it means that like when she has friends over, she sometimes has to say things like, look, you're gonna see what looks like a crime scene. You're gonna see a lot of books on like the coolest bank robberies and like notes on like ones that are like happening now. That's for his podcast. But then I have to say to friends when like they come over for me, I'm like, look, you're gonna see a lot of books with titles like Living with the Monster at Home. It's important for me that you know that those are workbooks. Like we used to like buy books together like once in a while. Like we'd go to the Barnes and Noble, and eventually I had to stop standing in line with her because like the Barnes and Noble people would like slip her notes to make sure she was okay. So I'd be like, the coolest fucking robberies, and she'd be like, when is love not enough? Like, and I mean. Shout out to the Barnes & Noble employees for keeping an eye on my wife, though. I appreciate it. Not needed, but important. Derek got it. Allies, you get it. Yeah, I'm just sipping this Coke. It's great. They got like the crushed ice. It's like I'm in a chateau. I love it. I'm in therapy. Thank God, right? My therapist, like my first therapist was not very good. And I realized that because like one day I was leaving her office, and there was like a guy leaving his therapist's office across the hall at the exact same time. And he was crying like I've never seen a man cry like in my life. Like the only time I've seen a guy cry like that is like if he accidentally like touched his eye after eating wings. But like the human being in me wanted to be like, hey buddy, like you okay? But then like the competitive New Yorker in me wanted to be like, hey buddy, like does your therapist have any openings? You know, they seem way better than my therapist, you know? Like tears is amazing. And mine rarely gets the truth. And that's important. So I ended up I got a different therapist, and I started this therapy called EMDR. Has anybody ever heard of that? Woo! Excellent. Okay. Perfect. So what EMDR is, it's an acronym. I have no idea what it stands for. I don't really care. But basically, the way it works is you sit across from the therapist, and then she takes her fingers and goes like this, and you have to track it with your eyes. And she didn't tell me that before we started the session. So I'm like, this lady is amazing. How did she already figure out I have ADHD? I thought she was teaching me some kindergartner skills. But, and then my second thought, by the way, because I'm a paranoid person, is, holy shit, is she activating me? Am I going to be Jason Bourne? Because you can do it with lights too. That would have probably put me over the edge. But I'm maybe I'm being activated. I don't know. But basically, it kind of just forces you to take your trauma and all the stuff, and you make it smaller and smaller. So it goes from taking a bad hit of brown acid from Woodstock, because I'm old, to microdosing mushrooms, and it never completely gets rid of it, but eventually it gets to the point where yeah, I could go to the store like this. So it's cool. It's effective. It works great. I'm very happy with it. But yeah, my first therapist was not very good, and I know that because I'm a straight white guy. I'm married to a woman. I love her, but I get hit on exclusively by men. Only by men. And part of me makes me feel I wasted my potential. Maybe I'm like Michael Jordan during his baseball years. But no, I get hit on by men because I am what the gay community calls a bear. You've seen the California state flag. I could use that as ID if I wanted to. But then, in mental health circles, my first therapist referred to me as her polar bear. And I'm I get it, I'm big and white and all that shit. And she's like, I don't think he's going to be here in 5 years. Oh my goodness. Yeah, no, that's fine. I have a lot of bear material if you guys want to hear it. Who here likes bears? All right, excellent. That's fun. I like bears a lot. I have favorite bears, but I also have least favorite bears. What's your favorite bear? Yogi. That's not a real bear. Yogi is not a real bear. Yogi is a profession for people on the Upper West Side to teach other people yoga. Let's try again. You, favorite bear? Teddy bear? Again, not a real bear. Not a real bear. Who has a favorite real bear? Kodiak. What? Kodiak. Solid choice. Solid choice. Very underrepresented, but great bear. I like it. What about you? Favorite bear?
Sun bear.
Sun bear, okay. Kind of a rip-off of the Kodiak bear, but that's fine. I like it. Golden fur, I appreciate it. What about you? Worst bear I've ever been a part of. Absolutely the shittiest bear. I hate panda bears. I'm sorry. No, they're sweet, but they're not worth the effort it takes to keep them alive. I'm just going to throw that out there. Panda bears are functionally useless, and we put extreme amounts of effort into getting them to breed. They're very reluctant to breed in the wild, to the point where researchers in China have dressed up as pandas to try to get them in the mood. They also show them sometimes videos of other pandas having sex, which is panda porn. Let's be 100% upfront about that. That is panda porn, which means that somebody makes panda porn, right now in China, there's a guy getting home to his wife and exactly one child. And he's telling his family all about the trials and tribulations that he faced today on the set of Pandemonium 4. And he's like, I'm so excited for next week because we're bringing in a big black bear for Eat, Shoots, and Leaves. That's the best panda porn title. I did the research, so you don't have to. Oh my goodness. It feels amazing to be recording an album. It feels really great too, because like a lot of people are like, man, like the pressure's gonna get to you. And for me, I'm very lucky because I have already had the worst time on stage that I will ever have in my life. So I know that nothing will be that bad. And I know you're probably thinking like, I bet they didn't laugh at all. And I just want to tell you they did. They laughed probably more than I've ever heard in my life. But you know, the bar is still very low. I'm going to tell you the story about that. When I was 5 years old, my dad's company had a Christmas party. Yeah, a little bit of a wild turn, right? And like at this Christmas party, they had hired a magician. And I always feel like a magician at a Christmas party, like just, it's unnecessary. Like it kind of feels like they're taking like the $10,000 that could have been bonuses, and they're like, we're gonna make you feel like an idiot for an hour and a half as you figure out how he did this with coins. You know? Feels insulting. But I was 5, I loved magic, and I was also the cutest I've ever been in my life. I was missing like the perfect 2 like little kid teeth, like just, you know, 1 and 2 right there. Like the one that like Tom Cruise just has 1 tooth for. I was missing those teeth. I was in like a suspender and bow tie. I was the cutest kid there by a country mile. And he's like, I need an assistant for this next trick, and my hand shot up. I love volunteering for things. I don't know if you know that about me. Second time I've mentioned volunteering. And so he hands me an egg when I get to the stage. He's like, hey man, very exciting. And I should point out, by the way, that this magician was absolutely an enormous cokehead. Because I feel like the context clues might have given that by the fact that he was a magician in the 80s. But he was doing a lot of erratic hand movements. He was like making a lot of jokes about like magic dust. You know, magicians in the 80s. And so he's like, he hands me an egg and he's like, when I count to 3, I want you to smash this egg in this frying pan. And so he gets to like 2.5. And I just take all of the angst that I'd had in my life at that point, which is not much, and I just smash the shit out of this pan. And I realized that I messed up because he looked worried. And I have never seen a cokehead's confidence waver at any point in my life, except this one time. But he's got to go through it. He's a professional, so he's like, cool, and he puts the lid on, lifts it up, and out, like just huge bursts of flame and 2 white pigeons. Not doves, pigeons. But these pigeons are like most likely concussed, and there's also bright stage lights and fire. So they turn around like almost immediately, and one hits me square in the chest. And I start freaking out. I'm panicking. It's the scariest thing that's ever happened to me. I'm like, ah, and I'm like running back and forth. The bird just as panicked, making the same, like we're mirroring each other. And it's like, ah, but with bird words. And he's like beating his chest and like pecking at me, trying to get away, but he's stuck in my suspenders. And I screamed and I cried and I shit my pants. Like right on the stage. Ta-da! So, as long as this goes better than that, I'll be okay. Yeah, thank you. What's wild about that, too, is I thought that was like the big finale. I was talking to my parents. I went to see him in September. It's like the 3rd trick into this guy's set. So he had to do like another hour of magic with like terror shit on the stage. That'd have been like if I shit my pants like during my New York Marathon joke, and then just had to keep walking through it the rest of the time. And you know what else I found out that was like totally wild? Magician? David Blaine's like 3rd gig. No, I'm kidding. It was like the manager Kenny's kid. It'd be wild if it was David Blaine though, right? Oh my goodness. I've not had a run-in with that kind of celebrity. I've only had a run-in with the worst celebrity. He was my nemesis. He died this year, which leaves a hole in my... I'm talking, of course, about Screech from Saved by the Bell. Screech and I had a 20-year feud. That is not a joke. Before I was in the Army, I feel like I should explain. Like, I feel like some of you are like, is he gonna like leave it at that? And part of me wanted to, because, leave him wanting more. But I'm gonna tell you guys. Before I joined the Army, I was a cable guy in Milwaukee. And one day, Screech lived in Milwaukee. He was for a while, he was our most famous person. And we accepted him because if he left, then we had to go back to being Dahmer Town. And we're like, Screech is fine for now. And so this is right when DVRs come out. And I get a work order that says Dustin Diamond wants to upgrade his basic cable to a DVR. And I'm like, Dustin Diamond, no fucking way. And I get to the house, he wants a 3 to 5 appointment. I show up at 2:55 because I'm a professional. And also I canceled my other appointment because I wanted to meet Screech. And sure enough, he opens the door and I'm like, oh my God, it's Screech. And I play it cooler than I'm playing it now. And he takes me to the TV. And we had a rule at the cable company, and this is gonna age me a little bit as well. But remember when TVs had cables plugged into them? And then you had to put it on channel 3 for your cable box to work? Cool, so we had a rule where the customer had to turn their TV on so that they couldn't just be oh, he broke our TV, and it never worked in the first place. So it was to cover our ass. And I'm like, hey, could you please turn the TV on and put it on channel 3? And he did this right as the clock struck 3. And 3 o'clock in Milwaukee was Saved by the Bell time. So I shit you not, the sequence of events is, hey, nice to meet you. Could you please turn your TV on and put it on channel 3? He goes, and then all of a sudden, the static, and when I wake up in the morning, and I've seen the face of God. This is the funniest thing that's ever happened to me in my life. And I fucking lose my shit. I start laughing so hard. And Screech is like, what are you laughing at? I made my money. And I'm like, I live 2 doors down. So, question mark on that. But he went ape shit. He's like, I want you to call your manager right now. So I call my manager, and I'm like, I have an angry customer. He would like to talk to you. And all of a sudden, Dustin Diamond starts screaming at my speakerphone. And my manager's like, what's going on? And he's like, he made me put on Saved by the Bell! And my manager has no idea what's going on. So he's like, yeah, that show sucks. I can't fire somebody like that. And then he hangs up and I get out of there. And for 2 months after that, Screech called customer service every single day to get me fired. That is a true story. That is 100% true. Being a cable guy is fucking wild. That's not even the craziest story I have. I got chased by a pimp named Colonel Sanders. That's true. I'll tell you that story. I got time. You guys ever go go-karting and you're waiting to go for the go-karts to come back so you can pick yours, and then there's the shitty one that rolls in with the wobbly wheel and you're like, that's gonna be mine. That, or the shopping cart, whatever. So one day I have this job and I turn the block and I see this guy with his shirt pulled over his face like he's the great Cornholio, just dancing in the middle of the street. And I'm like, this is gonna be my house, I know it. And it was. And so I had to pull over to this guy, and I'm in a cable van and a cable shirt, and he walks up to me, he's like, are you cable? And I'm like, yeah, I'm cable. And he brings me into this house that is completely empty. Just 100% empty. And I'm like, I can't do cable without TV. It's called cable television. And I'm expecting him to be like, oh yeah, I got a TV in there. What he said next threw me for a loop because I was not expecting. He's like, you like blowjobs? And I'm just like, yeah, I can't do this TV. And he's like, I said, do you like blowjobs? And now I'm trying to think of like a response to give him that is not going to put me in danger. I'm trying to word this like, you know, like when a genie makes a wish, and you have to like word it very carefully so that it doesn't backfire. Like, how can I use genie law to get out of the situation? And I'm like, yeah, I guess like if she does it right, because I wanted to, you know, establish that I'm not doing it, he's not doing it. And just when I think that I cannot be any more surprised, he yells out, chickens! Yeah, same reaction. And all of a sudden, like, 3 people come out of, like, what I thought was an empty room, and the oldest of which is probably 17. And I'm like, this is bad. I have to go, like, right now. And he's like, pick one. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. And he's like, you got to. And I'm like, I feel like I don't. He's like, nobody says no to Colonel Sanders. I'm like, look at me. I don't say no to Colonel Sanders very often. But I am going to right now. And finally, I'm like, I have to tell this guy that I'm going to do it. And I'm like, look, let me go out to the pole. I'm going to climb the ladder, hook it up at the house, and I'll come back. And if you like the work I did, you know, pick one for me. He's like, I can do that. And I get in my car and I peel off. And he chases me. He was the fastest man I've ever met in my life. Like the T-1000 for probably a good 10 blocks. Like being a cable guy, it was like, I say that I joined the Army because of like 9/11 and like good reasons. I joined the Army that afternoon. I can't do this anymore. I've seen some shit. And they're like, Colonel Sanders? I'm like, yeah, you know him? He's like, yeah. He's like, he's our best recruiter. Oh my God. You guys have been amazing. I'm gonna leave you with one story. Because I feel like it's important to tell. It's not particularly funny. Shouldn't have said that. But I feel like it's important to like kind of like get like a understanding for grief and like stress, and because it's not like it doesn't always have to be a bad thing is where I'm trying to go with this. And so on my first deployment, we were in Kandahar, pretty close to an area of Afghanistan called Helmand Province, and this is at the time the worst part of Afghanistan. It's like the Wild West. It's a huge Taliban stronghold. There are a bunch of Marines there. Happy birthday, by the way, Marines. Oh, okay, cool, nice. And so it's Bad News Bears area of Afghanistan is like what the generals called it. And yeah, this is the perfect response. And like late one afternoon, we get a distress call from a radio station in Helmand, and they say like, "Help us, please! Like the Taliban is closing in on us, and like they're gonna kidnap or kill us." And we were just the closest people. Like we're the ones that heard the call, and so we spin up in our trucks, and we start driving out there. And like our trucks are like they're up armored. Like imagine like a Brinks truck, and it's basically that. And so we start driving out there as fast as we can to like rescue this radio station. And I also feel like it's important to let you know that this is not like a top 40 morning zoo kind of radio station, you know, playing today and yesterday's best hits. This is more of like a we play American propaganda radio station, so like more like a Clear Channel. But eventually, like we drive out there, it starts to get dark, and by the time we reach this mountain where this like radio station is sitting on top, it's pitch black. And so we turn off the lights on our vehicles and we have to drive up the side of this mountain. And the trail is maybe 6 inches wider than the vehicles themselves. So we're doing this with night vision. There's no headlights because we can't give up the element of surprise. And the entire time everybody's in the back of these trucks being like a couple inches either way and we're done. And we get to the top of the mountain, and there's a little clearing, like just big enough for these trucks to park. And we kind of like back our backs back of the trucks to this hill that's like 300 feet, and then the radio station on top of it. So we have to drop our gates and run up this hill to this radio station where we are told that there are a bunch of Taliban guys like waiting for us. Not a great situation. And there's nowhere to hide. Like there's no cover, there's no concealment. It's just our trucks, the hill, and the compound. And like we can't even, like there's not even enough room for us to like take cover behind the trucks. It's just, there's nothing there. And so we kind of come up with a game plan that we're all going to drop our ramps at the same time, run up the hill, and do what has to, kind of like the first 5 minutes of Saving Private Ryan, like drop the gates and go. And we all have to do it at the same time so that, we have a chance. And we're sitting in the back of the trucks waiting for the commander to give the word. And we go and start doing our checks like on our gear, like making sure we're locked and loaded, making sure everything's like fitting like the way it should. And once that's done, we start shaking hands with each other and saying our goodbyes. And just kind of being like, it was a pleasure to serve with you guys. I couldn't ask for, better company. And stuff like that. Like we're the band at the end of Titanic. And like a couple minutes after that, our commander gets on the radio and he's letting us know that it's time. And there's this weird peace. Like everybody, like we're shaking hands and it's the scariest moment of our lives. But there's like this peace, like we're like, there's nothing else we can do right now. We just have to do this. And like death may come for us, but almost as an old friend, if that makes sense. It's a very weird, like it changed my life. And so the commander gets on the radio and he's like, gentlemen, I couldn't ask for finer people to command. But since we're here at the gates of hell, let's let the devil know we're here. Knock, knock. And then I get on the net and say, who's there? Guys, thank you so much. I'm Pete Stegemeyer.
Pete Stegemeyer, everybody. Yeah. That was fantastic.